Hi everyone, it's Luke from PaperCut. Thanks for joining me in another assembly video. This time we're going to be putting the Drac kit together. You can follow along as I do each step at a time so you can get your kits together. Let's get started. Okay, here's the tools that we want to use for our assembly. Let's go through each one of these. Of course, you got some scissors here. We'll be using that to cut the cardboard. Got a metal ruler here that'll be helpful when scoring anything that's been misaligned. We've got a hobby knife with an X-Acto blade, so that we'll be using this first thing to cut the pattern out of the pages that we got in our kit and rescoring things that are misaligned. We've got some tweezers here, and these will be super helpful to get those hard to reach flaps to glue down and attach to our assembly. Some toothpicks. I like to use these to apply glue to hard to reach places, especially when we're starting to close some of the shapes that we put together. And here we have a couple options on glue. You don't have to do any particular one. These are my recommendations because they tend to dry really quickly and attach fast. So I actually prefer the super glue for that reason. You can also use Zip Kicker to make it go a lot faster. Just apply some of this chemical and it will adhere instantly. Tacky glue, this is a cheaper option. Doesn't have the advantages of what super glue can do, but it's still a pretty good option. So there's that as well. Okay, let's put all this aside so that we can look at our kit that we're doing. Here we are, Drac kit. Let's get it open. So on the back side of the cover is our instructions, and we'll be going over these instructions step by step. And I'll be adding to these instructions the specific details of the how-to, putting these things together, and we'll go over that. So, all right, stack of paper. We got some vellum here, and then of course the cardboard. We want to keep the cardboard. Don't throw that out yet. We'll be using that in our assembly F. Okay, taking a look at the instructions here, we've got carefully remove all the shapes from the paper using a hobby knife. All right, so that's the very first thing we want to do. I'll put this aside, as well as our vellum. Okay, so starting with something that's easier to see on camera. It's a little easier. As you can see, the pattern shapes are still in the paper because there's some gaps in the cut marks. And we're going to use our hobby knife to gently just cut the remainder of this pattern so that the shape will lift out of the paper. And I recommend cutting just because we want a nice clean edge. Try to keep things as clean as possible because it looks the best that way. Sometimes, you know, our cutting machines are quite effective with the thickness of this paper, but every once in a while, one of these cuts won't quite go through, which causes this to stay in the paper, which is fine with me, just because it's nice to keep things orderly, organized in our kit. But there we go. We got one piece out. I'm going to go ahead and do all of this, and then just stack all these pieces by color in their respective piles. So let's go ahead and do that. And while we're doing this, just look for misalignments. And what I mean by that is, inside the shape, we have a bunch of score marks. These score marks should be connecting to the edges of the shape. If you see that something has been misaligned, you know, the registration is off, you know, that happens. I'm just warning you that that is something that we are looking for. If that has happened to your shapes, it's not hard to counteract the effects of that just by simply rescoring. So we'll be looking for that. It's rare, but it could happen to you. Just heads up there. All right, so let's go ahead and cut all these shapes out. Okay, now that we've cut this all out, check all the score marks for misalignment. Okay, so as I was cutting out, I noticed just one place that is a little off. That's in this one, and you probably have something similar. I am looking for the score marks right along here. This one is a little off, not by a lot, like maybe a 1/16 of an inch. Maybe it's just me, but that bothers me. I'm a perfectionist, so I'm gonna go ahead and rescore that. Okay, doesn't take very long. There's another one. Oh, it's slightly off. Okay, that's about it. Okay, next step. Fold the paper on the score marks, glue the flaps to the proper order. Okay, so we'll come down to assembly. Fold on assembly A here, fold and glue number 1 together, leaving the widow's peak unattached. Okay, so that is actually this first shape that we're looking at here. This is the widow's peak. Look like we've got some sort of spider with 2 big fangs. But yeah, that's the widow's peak. That's what we want to keep unattached. So as we glue these folds, that's what we're talking about as attaching the folds together. So on every each one of these score marks, we're going to be bending. So don't bend 100%. You're just going to bend like maybe 15 degrees, something like that. Not too much. Okay, that's how it looks when it's prepared for folding. All right, we got glue here. So I am actually going to start from one side and just kind of glue my way around, and then go from the top. So the very first glue is this tiny flap. It's so small. We just want a tiny little bit of glue on it. Just barely put any on there. And then on the next flap across from it, just a little bit of glue. All right. So what we're doing here is making sure that the edges of each side are matching up to one another as cleanly as possible. In order to get those edges to match, we will have to bend it down. This is the top of, this is the dome of Drac, his basically his head, and so it will be making a spherical shape, and that's why we have all of these bends. So as they bend, they converge together to create that sphere. So, one of the nice things about the super glue, one of the reasons why I like to use it, it does dry quickly. I guess that's an advantage and a disadvantage a bit, just because if you make a mistake and it's already dry, you kind of have to tear it off. And you know, I've done that a few times, just tearing something that I've glued together apart, and it's not horrible. You know, like a lot of times you can actually recover from something like that. It's one of the nice things about paper is it's a bit forgiving when it comes to being torn. You can just glue it back. You can just glue it back together. These little flaps and tabs, they require a bit more patience and dexterity. That's another reason why I prefer super glue, because it doesn't require a lot of time to hold it steady. In this case, I'm going to have to re-glue that. Alright, so as you can see there, I've got this pentagon, 5-sided shape that sort of bends toward the top triangle. That is where the ear will be. I almost forgot. This fold along here, you can see, that's a valley fold. So we'll be folding the opposite way just before we get to the bottom there. And that will allow us to match that edge. So if you're just following edge to edge, you'll notice that that one couldn't match unless that was a valley fold. All right, let's just go around and help us out here by folding those valley. And what I mean, it goes, it's a V shape going down as opposed to going the opposite way, which would be a peak or a mountain. So mountain and valley is kind of how we depict that, describe that. Okay, let's go to the next seam. So here's the seam. You see how that came together really nicely. We'll go ahead and do that and work our way all the way around. It is a symmetrical shape, so this is repeated on the other side. Let's get going on this. Alright, I've got my shape here. I did not glue the widow's peak like mentioned before. Came together pretty cleanly, other than there's a bit of a gap on this seam that I'm not fond of, right there. You can kind of see that right there. I'm going to just place a little bit of glue on the end of my toothpick. And as I flex the gap a little more open, I can then place that glue precisely where I need it. And then when I place this down, I'm just going to lean it against the other toothpick. That way it doesn't glue to my mat and or my hobby knife. Cool. So now we'll press that seam together. Hopefully, yeah, that's coming together better. That's looking a lot better. Cool. So I actually have a busted seam there, just a little bit right there. Easy to fix. It's actually just a flap that needs a little bit more glue. Okay, my finger keeps sticking to it, gluing my finger instead of the paper, so I'm just going to grab these tweezers, and instead of gluing my finger to the paper, I'll glue the tweezers. No, well, probably a little bit, but this is much better when it comes to getting the paper to attach. And then you can press harder, and there we go. That actually worked a lot better. All right, so there's our back half of the head. All right, let's look at. So that was fold and gluing number 1. Next one is fold and glue number 2 together. So number 2 is actually a blue blue shape, this light blue color. Here it is right there. I'll set this aside so you guys can see what I'm doing. All right, it's the same process every time. We're just going to bend these flaps down just gently, like 5 to 10, 15% angles, degree, and just take one flap at a time. Just gently bend those down. All right, so once we get this glued together, you'll see that this one's going to go. It's the other half of the head that will glue along the seam. So that means this V shape here is where the widow's peak is. So don't worry about gluing that together. Everything else will then glue around that. Okay. Let's get these flaps glued and attached. All right, I'm being very sensitive to the seam and making sure that the super glue doesn't squeeze out and make an ugly seam. And essentially all that means is as I place a small dab of glue, I may just spread it out with my finger or with a toothpick. And spreading that glue out over the surface area of the flap will help from things being squoze and smashing around like a pancake. Squoze. I think that's how you say it. All right, that was a little too much. So just squeegee some of that super glue over to another flap. So that's what we've got at the moment. There. Okay. Glue number 3 to number 2 assembly. Attach number 3 to number 2. Okay, so number 3 is that smaller shape here. That's this guy. So we want to attach this one to number 2, and then we'll move on to the next step. All right, so there is a there's an edge right there that we'll be folding on, score mark. And then the ones, there's 3 score marks right there in the center. The outer score marks are valley folds. So, bit of a W shape or an M shape, depending on how you're looking at it. Okay, so there you go. And then these ones are going to be folding fairly significantly. Like that. Okay. And then this is a valley fold, I believe. So a couple valley folds on this one. Right. So this shape that we just did and this shape, they're going to be going together like this. Okay, so this is the eyebrow of the or the eave of the eyebrow, however you want to say it. So back to number 2 here, these flaps are valley folds. So we'll just fold those up. So it's nice to have those folded up before we start to attach, because It's much easier that way. So there we go. And then these ones are also valley folds on number 2. This, well, at least, yeah, there's 2 flaps here. Okay. So you can almost fold this shape all the way down like that. So where we're going to start is right there on these peaks. That's where we're going to start. Just pick a side there. You don't have to do any particular one, but so we're going to get a little glue on this flap and some glue on the other flap, and we'll be able to attach that eyebrow. So getting contact right at the sort of like the peak of the eyebrow. It's kind of hard to understand this as an eyebrow at the moment because it's fairly abstract, but trust me, this will be the eyebrow. It also kind of looks like the dormer on a dome. Okay, and then just with your fingers, pinch, or tweezers, press those flaps together to get a good attachment. Cool. Let's go to the next one. So same order. Excuse me, order. Try to get the highest point attached. Yeah, and this one, tweezers is super helpful. Just like that. So there we are. So far, so good. So if I flip it over and I'm looking on the inside, I've got these 2 little flaps here that we can attach. This flap, these outer 2 flaps, we can do those as well. Let's start with that one. Okay, next step. Attach assembly to number 1, folding and gluing the widow's peak last. So here's our assembly. We're attaching it to number 1. We'll glue the widow's peak last. I'm actually going to glue the top portion of this. Just the tiniest bit of glue. Okay, so I recommend just starting outside of the widow's peak on this edge here. And we're going to have to kind of glue more than one flap at a time so that we can easily get the whole seam together all at once. So most of the flaps are on the light blue side, which is helpful. Sort of simplifies things for us. Okay, so we just want like the cleanest seam that you can make. I'm going with this larger flap to start. So you get a little glue on your finger and it attaches to the paper. I recommend just twisting instead of pulling because you don't want to pull the paper away from its attachment point. Done that a few times. So basically in the process of trying to remove your finger from the glue, it rips the seam. So the best way is just to kind of twist away. Okay, that's wraps up that edge, that seam, that side. Okay, so let's do, so that one's the finished one, this is the new one, the next one. Let's get a little glue on that, just like we did the first time. Here we go. Let's get the widow's peak glued down. So we're going to glue the whiter one, that's the one with the tab on it. So basically just fold that back on the score, just gently. And get some glue on the tabs of the light blue portion. I put a little too much, so I'm just scraping it off with my toothpick. Okay. So carefully let's get this. Alright, so I need a little pressure from the underside here to push that dome up. Otherwise the seams don't line up. Okay, so putting pressure on the underside, on the underside of this, as well as the top, will keep those seams matched up how we want them to be. Okay. So I got that extra glue on my toothpick. I'm just going to smear that on the flap of the first portion of the widow's peak, and then press that together as gently as possible. There we go. Huh. It's not working out. I need more glue. Okay. So once again, pressing that down with some pressure underneath. There we go. Yeah, the pressure really helps that glue to attach. Otherwise, it just doesn't work. That's a little tab over here that I didn't get to attach correctly, or didn't finish. Okay. Pressure, twist, done. Okay, moving on. We're still on assembly A. Attach number 4 to assembly. So number 4, that is this guy. All right, so symmetrical, doesn't matter which side faces up. Okay, so we've got the underside of our assembly. Number 4, it's going to be going like that. So just like that. And the best way to do this is one flap at a time. And we need to, because we're going straight down on this, we're going to fold all of these outer flaps down fairly aggressively. We need them to be really flexible. So I'm folding them 100% all the way around. Instead of, kind of what we've been doing is just bending these things gently. This time, it's more of an aggressive fold, and then flexing those back up just a little, like that. So we should be able to basically smash that to the surface. It's the same with the light blue, although we may not be attaching that yet. Alright, so all of those tabs are underneath, except for these little triangle tabs that I missed. Okay, there we go. So just pick one tab toward the back, get some glue on that tab, and attach that one first, and then just kind of work your way around. We are aligning the seam of the assembled pieces with the edge of number 4 as cleanly as we can. Okay. Attach number 5. Here's our number 5s. Okay, let's get these folded. All right, so this V shape, actually, it will these V shapes actually be going right inside the eyebrow there. So we want that to fold fairly aggressively, like a 90, like this. And then make sure these flaps along the V shape, they're folded down pretty well. Okay, so they flex a little bit, but you know, so it's like a 45 angle. And then this shape, this fold, is folding down and then valley folding. And then folding back. So just like that. You can see that. And then the flaps on the inside of there, let's fold those down like this. Okay, so we actually want to assemble this shape before we go any further. So let's get some glue on the flaps on the inside of the V, which is basically the eyebrow. My flaps on this are a little off, and that has probably more to do with the score marks being off. It just needs a little extra glue and some tweezers. Tweezers help so much in this scenario. There we go. I don't know if you guys can see that, but basically the interior of the V shapes is as if it's extruding back is the seam right there on the edge. Having a hard time attaching that to the assembly. I guess just this part of it anyway. All right, but we got it. So there you go. So the way that this comes in here can be a little tricky. This is probably the trickiest part, and you just want to make sure that you get a nice bead of glue, but not too much, because we definitely don't want any sloppy seams on either side. So I recommend taking your toothpick and sort of spreading that glue out, so with a little bit more assurance that it won't be gumming up our seam. But you want to make sure you have enough, so apply some more on that side, spread it out, and keeping it away from the edge. Let's grab our head, and what I'm going to do is jam this in here just like this, and I am going to focus the best I can on keeping the seams as perfect as possible. Which, easier said than done. All right, well that's not bad. The motion that I took of pushing that in there actually created just enough friction. Just a minute, let me get that in there. Just enough friction to like attach these shapes together almost instantly. So I really only had one shot, and it wasn't perfect, but it was pretty close, so I'm happy with that. There. So I think the big takeaway there is focus on not gumming up the seam with extra glue. I think that's the number one importance. Okay, so now that we've got that seam glued, we'll come back and glue the rest of this. So essentially that slots into here like that. Before you slide that in there, you want some glue on there. Okay, so I got everything I needed to glue in there. So just slot that in there, and then I'm really more focused on the outer edge, getting that seam as clean as possible. So if I can get those seams clean, the outer seams there, the seam right here on the black will line up pretty well. There we go. I got a little bit of glue on the edge there. I'm going to try to scrape it off with my X-Acto blade. It's a little better. All right, let's do the other side. So without any glue, I'm just kind of testing how this shape is fitting together. And it takes a little bit of, you know, negotiating with this paper. The edge of this tab just doesn't want to fold down, so I can get a little extra pressure with the help of my tweezers. Okay, let's get some glue, and now I think I can get this to attach better than the last one. All right, there's the next eye that will be going right there. So we'll glue that in a minute. Alright, let's get this in there. Okay, let's put some glue on the tabs. We want to make sure those fold down. So just like before, oh yeah, and like before, I think it's good to spread that stuff out. Alright. That slipped in really nice. Alright, so okay, so let's glue this side first. The last flap to glue is right here in the middle. All right. There's the top. Okay, so now we're on assembly B, and first line says fold and glue number 1 together. Okay, so we have number 1 and number 2. They're basically identical. Those are kind of like this. We also have those pieces there. These pieces are actually dark red. It's just printed a little dark, so just keep that in mind. These are the red pieces that are number 3. Okay, so with these pieces, this edge here is actually going to be more of a 45 angle, and then this one and this one are valley folds, not too hard, bends more like, as well as the very last one is a valley bend. Sometimes this is a little easier if you can use the tweezers as a little bit of leverage there. Okay, and then let's see here. Okay, so then this bend here Where you got score marks coming all the way down. That first one's going to be fairly severe, like a 90. And then the ones following it, there's 3 more. They are less severe. All right. Cool. So the first thing we're going to be gluing is, just want to get these pieces out of the way so I don't glue them by accident. There we go. We're going to be gluing essentially the eave of the house. And so we want to bend down these flaps, these tiny triangle flaps, and go ahead and place a little bit of glue on the tip, each one of these, just a tiny little bit, and then fold that down, letting those flaps kind of they're going to zipper together. Like that. There. You can see that. You can use your tweezers. Kind of push it together. If you don't get enough pressure on the back side of that, it won't stay. All right, cool. That pretty much takes care of that side. Let's do the other side. Okay, I feel pretty good about that. Now let's do the other side. Okay, so now that we've got these glued together, we're just going to glue this seam right there. This flap will attach both of these together right down the center seam. All right, next thing we want to do I want to attach this flap to this guy. Let's get all of these flaps folded. Now we can begin to glue this together. Okay, so now these are going to be attaching just like this along that tab here with the valley fold. All right, let's go to the other side. Alright, so now on to assembly C. What we'll need, let's go ahead and do number 1. We flip this over. So these are going to be going right on just like this. And they have flaps all the way around except for the inside. Let's go ahead and bend all those. Great. Both sides. There we go. All right. We're going to start with the bottom here. And work our way around one flap at a time. A little too much glue for my liking, so I'm going to spread that out with my toothpick. Now we'll glue the eave portion of the roof. And then the tab next to it. Let's go with this tab as well. So both those tabs. Okay, now the top tab. So that's how that should look. Okay, let's do this next one. All right. Starting to take shape. Okay, so these get the eaves for the windows, the front windows. Put a little glue on the house. Not very much at all. Use my tweezers here to place it. Other side. Just a little bit of glue, don't need a lot. All right, perfect. Okay, we got this portion here. This is number 3. I'm gonna fold that almost 90 degrees. It's gonna go right over the top there. Make sure these tabs are down. There we go. Let's get some glue on there. Let's do this on this side first. And on these tabs. Oh, that came out way too much. Put some on this side. Okay. A lot of glue came out there. Okay. Oh, you know what? I forgot. A little bit of glue on this edge here. Right along there. All right. Alright, I'm just putting a little pressure on the back seam, and that pretty much wraps the back side of it up. Just like that. Okay, so to close this off, we'll just put some glue up here. Let's concentrate some glue on the edges, just inside of the edge. And there's some glue in the center. So I need a little more glue right there in the corner. All right. So there we have the house portion of Drac, and we're almost finished. We need to get the chimney on there, so let's grab that piece. All right, this is the chimney. Let's fold all those score marks, get all these tabs folded, bent into position, so we can glue it together. Okay, let's go ahead and just throw some glue on each tab and attach the whole thing. Okay. Let's fold all those tabs together. Glue. Just put a little pressure on that. Alright, there's our chimney base. Let's see. We've got to train the chimney stack. And then throw a little glue on the... Oh, you know what? I bent that the wrong way. Just throw a little glue on the tab. It's such a little piece, it's hard to see in the camera, but so try to roll that instead of folding it in half. That can be a bit of a challenge. But once you have your tweezers in there, you can start to bend that shape. There we go. So that's going to go right over the top. Let's do the second one. Okay, so while I've got this in my tweezers, I'll just add a little bit of glue around the base rim, like that, and attach it to the top of the chimney base. Okay. Let's get the other one on there. There's my house. You can put it on either side. I like to put it on this side. There we go. Okay, you know what, I realized that I never did the ears for the head, so let's do that. I skipped right over that. Okay, so here's our pieces. Like this, and here's the head dome. We're going to be gluing them right on those pentagon shapes there. Go ahead and fold those flaps like that. We'll be gluing on those flaps to the head. And then on these blue shapes, go ahead and fold these flaps fairly severe to a little bit more than a 90. Grab some glue. Okay. All right, so we're attaching the blues, these shapes together, both blue, together. So as this folds down over, we can use these tabs to glue them together. There we go. All right. So, got my ear Eve, and essentially just want to line it up to the middle as best we can and press against the shape there. Right in the middle. All right, just like that, right in the center. And so we'll repeat that for the other side. All right, with a little help with Zip Kicker, I got that to stay. They're a little tricky to get on there just right. It has to do with a lot with the angle from here to there. This angle with the bend is a little inconsistent depending on how it was glued and scored. So the angle at which this paper is cut sometimes doesn't match 100% because of that. So I got a bit of a gap there, but I can live with that. This one's looking a lot better. But yeah, got the ears on there. Let's go ahead and move on to Assembly D. So now we'll be working on the face. And, okay. Okay, so with the face, we're going to start with the top flaps right along here, these teeth flaps. There we go. Just bend each one all the way around. So we'll take the glue and just get a little bit on each one of these teeth. We're going to start with the back edge and just work our way around. Forgot to get a little glue there. So there you go. So we'll end up with a seam right there. All right, let's do the other side. It's a little stubborn, so yeah, the tweezers really come in handy in these little pieces. All right, it's always good to check the back, kind of see how these flaps are attaching. All right, so let's go ahead and do the cheek. So get a little bit of glue on these tiny tabs. Don't want too much glue because we definitely want to keep this seam as clean as possible. So if it's bending correctly, we should see, let's see here. You should see these edges matching so I'm honestly having a little bit of trouble getting that to match perfectly. I'm off like maybe just a hair. But I think I'm willing to live with being off a hair. All right. Let's get the last one. a little too much on there, so I'm just going to wipe that away. So this last piece on the cheek is a tricky one because it twists. And if you just focus on this edge here, you'll see how it aligns. If you can get the edge to match, then it will create that shape automatically. So you can see that there. Kind of goes underneath. All right, so that's a single tab there. Okay, moving along. Well, this portion of the face anyway, we got to put the eyes together. Do that next. Great. Okay, so this goes on the back side of the face, creates the eye structure. Okay, so we've got these teeth on this side. Those are going to bend down. And the rest of this is going to bend together like this. So that when you've got it all, when you've got it coming together like this, all of those tabs are kind of pointing outward. And then the top tabs are going to be bent like in a 90 like this. Okay. And then when we go to glue this, let me face this toward me. The larger tabs on the inside, and it's going to go like that. You can see that. All right, so I get some glue on those. Once you get the edges aligned, it's pretty simple to just push down on the top. And then sometimes I'll use my tweezers, kind of press down on each one of those little tabs. There you go. Let's go to the next one. Alright, I think we're ready to glue that in. So we've got our face assembly and the back plate. That's going to go right on the inside like this. Just like that. And then these tabs on the top of that will glue to the top there. You can see that. Right there. So I think the best thing to do is just put the glue on the face, on the back of the face. Like that. Try to align the tops up there first because they need to glue in. Alright, let's get some glue on these tabs up here. And we can close that down. You want to align the edges again. Okay, let's get some glue on the outside tabs. Let's put the fangs on. There we go. And I think the most important thing here is just symmetry. So you can do it however you like, but I prefer things to be symmetrical. Okay. That wraps up assembly D. Let's move on to assembly E next. All right, assembly E. Full attached 1 to 4. Okay. Simple enough, right? There's 4. There's 1. Okay, let's fold these score marks. Alright. Alright, so as you can see in the illustration here, the tapered portion is on the bottom with this piece. So we got some tapered elements. And so that's going to go like this. Okay, get that like thinner portion. It's going to go to the angled. So the wide is in the back, smaller portion in the front, and then we're just going to glue it down just like that. Boom, right there. Okay. All right, so glue all along these tabs. We just want to align the outer edge. And then fold that side in. Okay. Go. And give it some little bit of help there. Okay, a little bit more glue down there. Okay, we just want to make sure that those are 90s. That's a 90-degree there. Oh, all right, that's attached. Let's do the same on the other side. All right, here we go. We're going to take our face there, we're going to attach that. So the first place we're going to attach that is on the back side there. Okay, so this edge is going to align with the back side of the face. So it's pretty easy to just slide that in there and then get that to align. Okay, so that corner there all aligned. So you can tell things are lining up because of the contact of the cheek here with the jaw. And then when you look on the inside, the tabs are contacting with the top of the face, and that's how we're attaching. So it's this corner and the cheek that are keeping it in that alignment, and also the face does have quite a gap from the face to the jaw. Tweezers super duper handy. All right, let's do the other side. So this time I think I'm gonna just get a good amount of glue on each tab. Okay, done with that. Let's go to the next step, which is number 3. Okay, here's our number three. Here's our number 3 piece. Let's start folding that. Okay, so the first thing we want to glue is these tabs here. So they glue down to there. Okay, let's glue this side. All right, bouncing over to the other side. All right, just working my way around to all the flaps, gluing them down. Okay. Let's get some glue on all these little tabs. A little too much glue there. Okay, so this one's a little tricky because I want this tab here to go underneath right here. So I need to flex that tab a little bit. I don't want to crease it because I want it to have a flex upwards. And I also need this tab to go in. Too much glue. There we go. Okay, so on the back side I can fit my tweezers in there and make sure that those tabs are pressing. There. So that's a nice clean seam. We'll attempt to do that on this side as well. All right, that's done. Let's go to the next box. So go ahead and, so this is number 5. We'll go ahead and fold these together. And we'll start gluing each tab and assemble this box. All right, so I got it to this point, and what I can do from here is then get glue on these tabs and then press it all down at once. Careful not to press it too far down. We don't want it to go further than it should. Oh my gosh. There we go. I want it to be as level as you can. I'm just kind of eyeballing its level. Okay, when you think you got it where you want it, press those walls together like that. Great. Great, that feels good. Okay, let's assemble everything. Okay, so the thin portion of this box is on the back side, okay, and then the face and everything comes down right there and matching the slot. So let's get some glue on the bottom, and we just want to match the slot. That's most important. Okay. That looks good. Great. This is going to be gluing right there. Okay, so we just need a little glue there. All right, we're drawing near the end of this. It's always very exciting. Okay, let's look at where we are. That wraps up Assembly E. Assembly F is the chin and the steps, the vellum, and the cardboard stack. Let's start with the chin. Okay, another quick assembly. Let's fold this together. Just get all those flaps folded. There you go. Alright, so then let's go ahead and get some glue on both those flaps. Bend that down. Skip both sides. Alright, the last 3 tabs we're going to do all at once. Okay, there's the chin. The chin goes right there. Oh, it doesn't. It goes like that. Alright. So that the taller portion's in the front. Okay. Okay, here comes the exciting part. We're going to glue all this together. Alright, so we want some glue here on the bottom so that it sticks to the inside of the house. And then we want some glue on the back side of the face, especially right up in here. And along the edge, just inside the edge. All right, let's go ahead and slot that in there. It's a little tight, so that's okay. It is going to be snug. Alright, so down in here at the bottom, just make sure that that is nice and flush there. There we go. And then what we'll do is just come in here and pull the house forward to meet the back of the face. Mine bowed a little bit when it came in contact, so. Alright, so before things dry, we're going to lift up, well actually, let's just pull that face out just enough that we can get some glue right there and right there. There we go. All right, great. Seeing a little bit of sliver there is not a problem, I don't think. It's aligned good enough. And there's a bit of a gap here. I'm not super excited about. But it doesn't bother me too much. Trying to see how maybe I can avoid that from. Yeah, it's not too bad. Actually, as I was pulling it, it popped the you pop the paper to bend toward the face, so it minimizes that gap. Great, so I can put this down like this. You guys can see how this is all aligning. Cool. So that's how this assembles. And I have to say, it's starting to look really nice and coming together. We are almost done. Just got a couple more things to do. All right. Put him here. Okay, here's the steps. Some pieces here that I need to cut. Alright, we don't want that little triangle. So there's a valley fold. This comes down, and then that comes up. So, and then we have this to get that step in there. Alright, and then just bend the triangle flaps back. Get some glue on those flaps. That's kind of how that side goes. Okay, more glue. There we go. Steps. Okay. Now we've got a pair of eyes, red eyes, and a piece of vellum. It's going to go something like that. You need a marker or a pen or something. I'll show you how this works. So we could take the head off of Drac, grab the vellum, slide it down from the top until it bottoms out, and then go ahead and put the head on and try to align that how you expect to see that finished. And then what we'll do is we'll take a marker and we are looking to identify the center where these eyes will be glued. All right, I think I got it. So right there on the marks, Throw a little glue down. Put my eyes in there. That looks somewhat centered. That's a little off. That's okay. Perfect. Yeah, like always, it's kind of difficult to show this effect on an angle because everything kind of falls apart. But I think you get the idea. There he is. One last thing to do. In order to put your phone inside of Drac, and you know, we all have different size of phones. Not all of us. Some of us have the same, but that's a rare situation. So, you know, to accommodate all the different sizes, we were able to make the opening universal, but the height and width changes a little bit. The height is the most difficult part, obviously, because we've got smaller and larger phones. In order to accommodate that for your particular phone, we've got some cardboard that will stack glue together and slide underneath the porch so that you can align the phone vertically to display the animations. All right, so down here in F, we need to measure out 3 7/16 by 3/4 inch. So 3/4 inch is the width. What we'll do is just, I grab my marker. We'll measure out 3/4 inch on this piece of cardboard. There you go. And then I need this to move over. With our ruler, we'll measure out 3/4. Let's do a couple of these. Now with our sharp heavy duty scissors, we can just cut right through this cardboard fairly simply. It's going to be, you know, different for every pair of scissors. You want to probably grab your sturdiest pair. If you don't have scissors that can handle cardboard like this, then I recommend just using your X-Acto blade and your ruler. So those combined, you can do precise cuts. Okay, so there's one strip. Let's go for another one. Alright, let's check the width. See if it's going to fit well or not. So basically, we want it to fit in this here. So this piece is a little wide. As you can see, it's sort of stuck in there. This one is perfect. That fits really nicely. So you get about a 1/16 of an inch leeway there. Just a sliver. And that helps a lot. So, okay, we just need to cut a little bit off this. About 1/8 of an inch that we're trimming. I'm just kind of eyeballing it. Okay. Let's see how that fits. Much better. Alright, so the length was 3 by 7/16, which means it's just over 1/2 inch, 7.5 inches. So if you want excuse me, we want to err on the shorter side. 1 7/16 something. I'm sorry, not 1. 3 7/16. Little too long. Still too long. That's better. Alright, so we know that that's the length we want. We can cut the rest of them. Alright, that last piece, let's cut that one lengthwise in half. Okay. And we're going to glue all these together. So the top one just kind of aligns to one side. There you have your adapter, phone adapter. So I think that's probably going to be a little too small. I've got a few here that I can use from another build, just to save on a bit of time. There we go. Let's test it. That's perfect. So you can kind of see it right there. I'll put my phone in, navigate to my face for Drac. It's in here someplace. There it is. There, perfect. There we go. I think I can actually tilt this. There we go. There. There he is. Perfect. Yeah, the phone fits really well. The expression turned out really nice. And the eyes are aligning really well for me. Not too much of a gap between the head and the face. So yeah, I'm really happy with that build. Not too wobbly either. Pretty sturdy. Alright, I think that's all the steps on our instructions. And I'm happy with mine, the way mine turned out. I hope your guys has turned out just as well, and you didn't run into any roadblocks, and we're able to finish alongside me. So, all right, thank you. Well, that's about it for me in this assembly video. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you in the next one.